Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. My name is Alex, aka Aviationist, and today I am bringing you something a bit different. Today I'm gonna do a normal flight, just as you know it, again in the 737. But this time I am gonna go step by step through what I'm currently doing, so you can learn how to fly the airplane. And this all starts with flight planning. And I try to keep it as simple as possible. So what I'm doing is we are flying a fictional flight for my virtual airline, and we are we're splitting the video into two parts. So first part will be flight planning up to departure. Second part will be arrival, landing, shutdown. Um, Yeah, so we are currently in PFPX, which is my planning software. I have a full tutorial made by me on the channel of my virtual airline, so I will link this right now in the top right corner. Um, so if you want to really get to know this software, just pause this video now and watch the tutorial, the full tutorial on it, and yeah. But for now, I'm just trying to keep it really simple. I just want you to get to know the airplane and get to know the real basics, so you can just fly. So no failures, no real operations, just some basics. So we are flying GermanSKY flight 501 from Amsterdam to Berlin-Schönefeld. I chose these two airports because they are really straightforward. This is nothing special, no special approaches. Amsterdam is pretty big, so this is just interesting, and Schönefeld no is different than the other ones. So I will just look up which runway they use currently. My internet today is really slow, so I'm really sorry for that. And I really don't know what the reason is. Okay, no. Um, just give me a small second, please. Okay, so I found the departure runway. It's departing 24. Landing is, yeah, 25 right. Type is scheduled. Departure time. This is just for the record. We are flying 737-900 today. Again, if you want to know how to add an aircraft to your database, take a look at the PFPX tutorial I already made. Now just click random payload, find destination alternates, find a route, upper airspace, and compute a flight. One thing I forgot, you should sometimes just put a few reserves. There we go, release the flight. So I'm gonna take a short moment, especially with my slow internet. In the meantime, I will show you another software called Toper Takeoff Performance Calculator, something like this. Which is really handy. It's like, what is it, 5 to 10 euros? If you don't want to buy it, that's fine. An alternative to that is TopCat, which is this program. But I'm gonna use Toper for this purpose, so we're gonna select the 737-900, Amsterdam 24, I'm just gonna take a look at the meta for Amsterdam. It's variable at 2. What's going on? So it's yeah, 0 at 2. Outside air temperature is 9 degrees. QNH is 1002. I want to depart with flaps 1 because the runway is really long, and our takeoff weight, just take a look at this value, 68897. Just calculate, and it'll give you a few values. We're gonna discuss them later in the cockpit. Now, in case you have TopCat, you just press send TopCat. It's gonna open TopCat. And it's then gonna, it's gonna search for the aircraft. I don't have the aircraft in my database, which is why I don't use TopCat in this specific example. But you can see I have a few aircrafts in here, and I'll just show you how that looks. I go weight and balance, and I can put all my weights in, and put my route in, and I don't know what, and my fuel. Then I go to takeoff, put in the wind, the temperature, the QNH, runway condition, the takeoff weight, and the flaps and all configurations, then the runway, and then I just press compute, and it'll give me a few numbers. Again, we'll discuss them later in the cockpit, but I don't need this right now. Now, I will export the route to PMDG Simulations NGX for P3D. In case you're using FSX, just use the FSX one. Also, this is just personal preference. I print my flight plans to PDF. Just check whatever you want in there. I don't need the ATC flight plan, although, yeah, I might need it, so I'll just, everything except for the NOTAMs, I really don't need the NOTAMs. And I'll just press OK, and I hope this window opens on the other side. No, it does not. But doesn't matter, so Amsterdam to Berlin OFP. I always name my flight plans like this. It's just personal preference. As I already said, you can also name it 1 and 2 and 3, and yeah, you get it. I'll just press save, and then this is everything we need to do in PFPX. So I'll just put on P3D, set everything up, and we'll see us in the cold and dark cockpit of the airplane. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our cold and dark 737 NGX. This is as cold and dark as it gets. So, everything is turned off, no ground power, nothing, just the jetway connected, and our ground services are on the way. Other than that, there is nothing. You can see the weather is kinda shit, but that shouldn't bother us too much. So the wind is still really calm. The visibility is 300 meters, but we can deal with that. So let's start setting this up. First things first, power up 1 CDU, which is done by long pressing the menu button. Go to FS Actions, Ground Connections, connect the ground cover, and remove the ground power, and remove the pitot cover. So next I will load my airplane. So the fuel, I'll just take a look at my OFP. The release fuel is 6615, and the payload is zero fuel weight. I think it's max. Yeah, it is. Then I will just open the doors because GSX is doing its work, and then we're done in the FMC. Now, to get this airplane somehow alive, you put on the battery, you make sure the standby power is auto, and you flick the ground power switch. Whoops. You can hear the airplane come alive. Now the screens will just take a small second. In the meantime, check the oxygen masks by clicking on this spot. You should see the yellow cross and hear the sound. Now our FMCs are now in dual mode. We can continue up here. Now, test everything you can test. The stall warning test is currently not working, which I think is because our screens are not powered up. Oh, our left one is not working. Our right one is. Weird. Okay, but we can live without it. Passenger oxygen is normal. Flick on the yaw damper. Leave the fuel pumps off for now. And now we're just scanning the overhead, column by column, from top to bottom, from left to right. So, you already saw I put the yaw damper on. You don't need to change anything on this panel. Fuel pumps can stay off. We'll just check the crossfeed. Flick it, make sure the valve open thing illuminates and goes back off, and then turn it off again. Now in this column, battery is on, standby power is auto, we already checked that. We're on the ground power. Circuit breakers and lighting not needed now. Equipment cooling is normal. Emergency lights, just put the guard down and it will put it on armed. Put both signs on, so no smoking, and fasten seatbelt. Window heat can come on. The probe heat, I think they put it on after pushback, but you can put it on right now, it won't hurt anyone. Hydraulic pumps, when pushing back, put the A pumps off and the B pumps on. When you're on a remote stand, you can put them on straight away. Now the packs, this is okay, the trim air is on. Reset fans are auto, packs are both off, isolation valve is open, and the bleeds are all on. Pressurization, our cruising level today will be 370, and our landing altitude in case we need to turn around. So the airport elevation for this airport is 0. For the lights, left ignition first of all is good, and the logo light and the position light is on, so the nav light. And this is everything we need in the overhead panel. Now, I will just close our right doors. We'll then program the FMC. So, nav data out of date, that just doesn't matter. Now, position initialization. Put in the ICAO code of your departure airport in here. You can try to put your gate in. It doesn't always work. You see, not in database. So what you do is you press next page, take the left GPS position, and put it into here. This will align our navigational instruments. Let me just try the left. Left stall warning is still not working. Okay, I don't know why. Next, go to route. Now, you could fill this in manually. I'm not gonna show you how that works because this is just unnecessary. Just now, remember we have exported the route from PFPX over to the NGX. So you just put in ICAO code of departure, ICAO code of arrival, and 01, and put it into the company route. Now when you press next page, you can see our route is already entered. You have the airways on the left, the waypoints on the right. Now, in case you have to do that manually, just take a look at your flight plan. You can see the first waypoint, put it to the right. The airway, put it on this left side, then the next waypoint, the next airway, the next waypoint, and so on and so forth. Now, the runway we're departing to 4. Flight number is GermanSKY 501. Activate. And whenever this white light flashes, it means you have to execute something. So the really important changes, you have to press execute. Now for the perf init, double click the zero fuel weight. It'll fill everything in for you automatically. The reserves, take a look at your flight plan, and where it says arrival fuel, just subtract like 1 ton of it. You need that. This reserve is mandatory, so you don't put that in as the final reserve. So for me it's around 3.5 tons minus 1, that is 2.5 tons. Cost index is 25. For this airline, it varies from airline to airline, so yeah. Cruise altitude is 370, and transition altitude, you get that from the charts, is 3000. The transition altitude is the altitude where you switch from local QNH to standard QNH. Again, execute. Now, this is where our TOPA values come in handy. So, remember we use this takeoff performance calculator. It'll give you something called selected temperature or cell temp, which you enter up here. Put 41 in there because for this example it's 41. Go to the next page, takeoff, enter your departure flaps. Remember we put 1 in. Center of gravity, double click this. And before you put the speeds in, always remember to put your departure route in. Now the departure route is a pre-made route which leads you from your departure runway to your first waypoint. They are often really complicated, and they are there to avoid terrain or any major cities or arriving traffic. So what you do is you go to Amsterdam departures, click runway 24, and it'll filter out all the possibilities you have. And we are probably, let me just check. Yep, we are gonna use the Arnhem to Sierra departure. And now go back to takeoff and just double check the speeds with now the suggested speeds with the ones you've calculated. So the calculated V1 for me is 155, this is 154, perfectly within the margin. 158, 156 also okay, and 163 and 162 also okay. Now in case you are departing from a wet runway, press next page and put the runway condition to wet. This will decrease your V1. So in case you don't know the speeds, V1 is the speed where you can't reject the takeoff anymore, you have to lift off. VR is the speed where you pull the nose up, and V2 is the safe climb speed. So in case you have an engine failure, I don't know, aiming for V2 is you are on the safe side. Anything lower than V2 and you may stall. So this is us done in the FMC. Now, before you can start the engines, you have to put on your APU, which is, let me show you. I actually can't without going around the whole world. I'll just quickly go around here. Now our APU is this small intake here, which is a small turbine which is run by fuel, and it is it powers the airplane electrically, but also it provides bleed air to the engines, so we have to run that. It's run by fuel, so we have to put the fuel pumps on. Search for the APU switch. Don't only flick it to on, but flick it to start, hold it for a second, whoops, and let it go back to on. Now you should see this low oil pressure, and the EGT should start to rise in a few seconds. There we go. When this happens, the APU is on its way to start up. Now we have to set up our EFIS displays, which EFIS panels, which are here and here. They are basically a small customization for the two main screens. So, first of all, my navigational aids, I always put them to VOR, so VOR1 and VOR2. So both needles, stick them up. The pressure in Europe is measured in hectopascal, and I always like to have my traffic monitor on and the data monitor, which shows you a few datas below the waypoints. Press B to set your pressure to local QNH. Put the flight director on. Always put your side on first. You can see this MA, which stands for master. Put your side on first, so in case you're flying on the right hand side, put the right hand side on first. Put the auto thrust switch on. Dial in your V2 speed in the speed window. Put in the runway heading, which I don't know exactly, so I just approximately put it in. Press VNAV, press LNAV, and put your initial climb in there. We are not flying online, so you don't need to bother with the initial climb. Just put your cruising altitude in. 370. Now do the same on the right EFIS panel. VOR, hectopascal, traffic, data. Now the APU is probably done starting up, so what you do is these are the generator switches. Now remember, I flicked this on once we started up the airplane. Now you need to actually transfer the electrical power to the APU. So double click, not double click, but switch both generators on, and you will see the APU gen light extinguishes. Now use your right FMC for everything that is not really flight related, so ground connections. Before you disconnect your ground connections, pull the parking brake, very important. And just put the wheel chocks off and it'll remove everything. Close your doors. Disconnect the jetway. And then enter the FMC by pushing the left top button and put it to the legs page. Now the jetway is going away. I'm now going to use GSX for my pushback. I don't want de-icing treatment and I want standard pushback.
De-icing conditions, please stand by for engine start until push completed and brakes set.
Perfect, thank you. Now once you are about to move, put on your anti-collision light. In real life, this is a signal for the vehicles behind you to stop, like driving around, and stop for you so you can push back. This is this red bright flashing light on the top and also on the bottom. You can see it right there. Now he is locking the gear. So for add-ons I use ActiveSky for the weather. This is the PMDG 737 NGX, but you can use this tutorial for the iFly 2 if you want to. This is FlyTampa Amsterdam and Aerosoft's Berlin-Schönefeld. Now GSX for the ground services tells me to release the parking brake, so release the brake, and for me I like to press on the right clock, so this button where it says ET, elapsed time, just push it and it'll run the stopwatch. Now we are turning and we can start our engines. So you start with engine number 2, so the right hand side first. Right click the starter switch to no, left click to ground, and it'll start spooling up. You can see the N2, which is our second fan, starts spooling up. Our N1 starts rising, the oil pressure starts rising, and the oil temperature will rise too. Now once you reach 25% N2, the engine needs fuel to start up further, so you press this fuel lever, and now you can see the EGT rises, which is the exhaust gas temperature, and the oil pressure again further rises. You can see the fuel flow is positive now. Wow, you can't really see a thing. Now once the engine is started up, you will see this, set the parking brakes. You will see this lever go back to off, and then you have done everything right. Now repeat the same for engine number 1. Put the switch to ground, monitor N2 rise, N1 rise, oil pressure rise, and wait for 25% until you put some fuel in. 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, and 25. Put the fuel in. It doesn't need to be exactly 25%. You should aim for in between 20 and 27. 27 is maximum. Because if you don't put the fuel in, the engine can't really spool up. Now that was the starter cut out, and now GSX is away, so now you have to do some after start items. First things first, you put the probe heat on, then you put the hydraulic pumps on. Put the packs to auto, isolation valve to auto. Put the engine start switches to continuous. Put the ignition to both. And now you need to transfer the electrical power to the engines. So press the engine generator switches and you will see the lights will go off and the APU light will go on, which means you can turn off the APU by putting the APU switch to off. Next, put the systems page on here. Select your departure flaps, which is flaps 1 in this example, and take a look at your trim value, 5.6 approximately. Now you have to trim your airplane. Now you can't really do it exactly, but you can approximate where 5.6 is. Put your auto brake to RTO, which stands for rejected takeoff. And now we have to test our flight controls. So move your flight controls fully to the left and check that this works fine. Move them fully to the right, also fine. Move them fully up, fully down, and check the rudder, left, right, neutral, and the flight controls check is complete. Before you start taxiing, put your runway turn off and taxi lights on. And now you can release the parking brake, advance the thrust levers to full and pull them back instantly. This will give you a bit of momentum, but you won't take off. For taxiing you usually don't really need a lot of power, so you advance the thrust levers a bit, then you pull them back to idle and the airplane will taxi by itself. Now, I'm taking a look at the ground charts at the moment, and we have to take the next right turn. We'll turn right. Remember, the front wheel is slightly behind you, so don't drive it like a car, but kind of oversteer the turns. So now we are on Alpha and we have to take the next left to get onto Sierra 7. Now, once you're on the taxiway, away from the apron, you put on your weather radar, you put on your terrain radar. Usually you have the weather radar on your side. Now let me just take this turn here. See, I'm oversteering again. Now once you have perfected this technique, you can take every turn perfectly, but I still haven't, so. Also, put your transponder once you reach your departure runway, which is actually done. Oh, no entry, what? Where are we? Please don't tell me I taxied wrong. This is Sierra 7. Why is there no entry written on here? Now this is the problem when having low visibility. Oh, I think I know what I did wrong. I think I took the wrong turn, so let me just do a quick 180 and taxi a bit further. Okay, spin around, spin around. Well, that was a nearly perfect 180 turn. So, we have to take the next left. So, once you are reaching your departure runway, you have to put on your transponder. Just put it all the way to the right. This is the runway in front of us. You can see 24 is identified. And once you go past the holding point, you have to put on every single light you have. So the landing lights, the strobe lights, which are bright white flashing lights, and the wing light. You don't need the wheel well light. This is not an exterior light. Now, line up carefully. And I will just, for the sake of the tutorial, hold on the runway for a short moment. So, quick check. Trim is set. Flaps are set. Auto brake is RTO. We have the transponder, the weather radar, the terrain radar, all of the lights. And that is it. No warnings on the overhead. Perfect. We can go. So, start your stopwatch, your own stopwatch. Advance your thrust levels to around 60%. Release the brakes, and once you go past 50, press on this click spot here. Try to keep it on the center line. Now your thrust is set. $80 knots. B1. Rotate, slowly pull up the nose, and once you have a positive climb rate, put the gear up. I'll just get a quick screenshot that I can use for my thumbnail, and now just follow your flight director. See these two magenta lines on your artificial horizon? try to get the dot exactly on the point where the two lines meet. Now I'm gonna take this next turn manually. Just follow the flight director, nothing real complicated. Now it's a bit bumpy because of the clouds. Once you reach the flap up, this green indicator, you put your flaps up. We're almost out of the turn, and I'm gonna activate the autopilot in a second. Theoretically, you can arm the autopilot 400 feet above the ground. So, in case you are flying online and you have to deal with communications, or in case you're just not as, how shall I say, good flying the airplane, you can just arm the autopilot. It'll do it by itself. So, I will now arm the autopilot. Just put it on. And now you can see this yellow bright thing, error down there. Just press the standard button and it'll put your QNH to standard. Put your auto brake to off. Put your gear off. Your flaps are retracted. And usually you put your retractable landing lights off. The wing light can come off too, and now we're climbing safely, so put the engine start switches back to normal, and that is it. Now we're just out of the clouds. Wow. What a shitty weather. Now, see, the airplane is flying fully by itself. We're now waiting to reach 10,000 feet. Now, 10,000 feet is somehow the magical altitude. So at 10,000 feet, you release the passengers, so you put the fasten seatbelt signs off. You put your landing lights off, and at 10,000 feet, I think the pilots are allowed to put their shoulder harnesses off. So, and below 10,000 feet, your maximum allowed speed is 250 knots. Above 10,000 feet, you can do what you want. Now, 10,000 feet, you can see our airplane is going to pitch down in order to accelerate. Put your lights off. And put the fasten seatbelt sign to auto. There we go. You have successfully departed with the 737 NGX. We're now on our way to Berlin. Whoops, I always keep tabbing out. So, I will see you guys in the next part where we will program in the arrival route and take a look at the arrival and landing in the 737. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you can kind of learn. And yeah, in case you liked it, leave a like, drop a comment. I love to hear your feedback. And if you don't want to miss any video and the upcoming part of this tutorial, subscribe. So until then, I wish you a nice flight and see you in the next part. Bye bye.